Hey friends, welcome back to the library or welcome to the library. I have with me today author Jasmine C. Caldwell. Super excited to be talking to you.
I'm excited to be here.
So, tell me a little about your journey into writing, how you got started.
Ooh. Well, I told my parents I wanted to be an author when I was about 8 years old. My parents are both teachers. My mom was a librarian on top of that. So pretty, I was an early reader.
Mm.
Um, I read a lot. Um, and I decided I wanted to do that myself. And they had this ancient typewriter that I decided I was going to write my book on that.
Yeah.
And having no idea about story structure or anything like that. Um, Basically, I think what I was probably writing was a bunch of fan fiction.
Hmm.
And it made me feel really grown up and, like, oh, I'm a real author. I'm going to be a real author. I'm going to type it on the typewriter. I have no idea where I came up with that. But then they got rid of the typewriter and I was very upset. No one knew I was writing a book on it except me.
Oh.
Um, and I wrote sort of as a hobby throughout high school, like middle school, high school, and then a little bit in college. But by the time you hit college and you've got all these bloody term papers, you don't want to be writing for
Yeah.
fun anymore. It's just not fun.
No, not at all.
And so I left writing by the wayside. Um, and I picked it back up during the pandemic, as a lot of authors did.
Hmm.
I was the year before the pandemic. I had gone through some rough times, and it started kind of as my first book kind of started as a therapy piece to sort of exercise those demons. And I finished it and I looked at it and I was like, I think I might actually have something here. And that's when the ideas started coming for various things.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I've had some back and forth answers to that question before about, oh, well, it's something I've always done, or um, I found inspiration from a specific story or etc. But I do love when it's one of those situations where you're using it like as a therapy and you're able to kind of not necessarily completely heal yourself because I don't think we're ever all the way healed. There are always something that we grow from,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like that would bleed into the perception of the book and like how and your perception of each of the characters as well.
Yeah, it definitely helped me process
Mm-hmm.
um, what had gone on in my life. Um, and during while I was working with my editor, I kind of got this nebulous idea for a series that was not actually related to the book I had just finished. But she loved the idea and she encouraged me to work on it. And that's where my 5 book series came from.
So tell me about the series and kind of the basis of the storyline. Like, is it one entire storyline over the 5 books, or is it like interconnected
They're
different pieces of a
interconnected.
larger puzzle?
Yeah, they're interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and each book deals with a different couple.
Okay.
But the common thread was that these girls all knew each other from college. And it's actually based on my own group of friends. There's more than 5 of us, but I
Aww.
didn't want to get into that many. I was like, that's too many. um, but we were very close. We talk all the time on group chat and that kind of thing. So I kind of came up with this idea when I was growing up. There was this really annoying trope that you would see repeated throughout media, that the nerdy girl would have to get a makeover before the hot guy would pay attention to her.
Mm-hmm.
and that really annoyed me. So, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
same.
So I decided I wanted to flip this on its head and make the guy prove that he was nerdy enough to keep up with her. And that's
Aw.
how the Geek Girl Squad was born.
Round of applause, Geek Girl Squad.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
And I wanted to sort of I'm a Gemini. And I
Okay.
have a lot of different interests, which is why I can't seem to stick to a subgenre. But I sort of like broke the interests out and focused them on each girl. They have like what I call their main fandom. So you have one girl's into anime, one girl's into sci-fi, one girl's into D&D and LARPing, which I never LARPed myself, but I have friends that did. And I talked to them about like how it works and everything like that. More than just the stories about what happens after the game, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
there's one who's into video games and one that's into comic books. And I sort of tried to hit all the different socioeconomic backgrounds, different races, different orientations. I know it's not very common in contemporary romance, but there are 2 LGBT books in the series.
Oh, that's amazing. I like the representation. So what about like how was your journey into doing the research, especially like for the LARPing? Like are all of these commonality just from your interests as well? Or like the LARPing, did you have to talk to friends and go a little bit more in depth?
So for the LARPing, I talked to my friends. They pulled up old videos that they had from practice sessions and explained everything to me. And it was really helpful. And I actually had one of them beta read for me so
Okay.
that she could, see how everything worked together in the plot and tell me whether or not that would work. And basically, I had to create my own system because I can't base it off anybody else's. Um, and that actually continues because that particular girl has 3 older brothers.
Okay.
And they're actually getting their own spin-off series. Her oldest brother, that was when she kind of appeared in my head. Nadia was very tomboyish, athletic, very tall, and I'm like, why are you like this, basically? And she's like, I got 3 older brothers and they're all in the military. I'm the youngest of 4 and the oldest one is 16 years older than me. And I'm like, okay, well, that'll do it.
Yeah, that will. For sure.
So there's I've been getting into TikTok and CapCut stuff lately, and I found this one CapCut video that was just perfect. It's this guy, I don't even know what television show it's from, this guy in armor who's walking past and he turns around and he goes, what the did you just say? And I'm like, oh man, it's like when her brothers found out she was sharing her tent with Caleb.
Wow. I love that it's the overprotective older brother.
Oh yeah, they are. They were also smart enough to teach her how to defend herself, but that was on top of showing up on the porch with their guns for her homecoming date.
The storyline goes, the older brothers will do it so the dad doesn't have to.
Oh no, he was there too. Where do you think they picked it up?
True. If they're anything like my cousins and uncles, gosh.
Yeah. She refers to them as her Neanderthals.
Oh, it's such an endearing term. How sweet. I know there's probably love in that somewhere. Like there's this love for like having your brothers when they're overprotective, but
yeah,
there's also that so you get that underlining annoyance, like you feel like you can't do anything
Mm-hmm.
because they're always in your business. Like
Yeah,
I don't have any older siblings. I'm the oldest of
same.
5. However, my mom is the youngest. She has 2 older brothers. And when I say 2 older brothers, I mean my mom is 5'6". She's got 2 older brothers that are 6'6", 6'5", 250, and just buff across the shoulders, like burly football stocky men. So like she would tell me in high school, she was like, yeah, I couldn't, like nobody would even look at me. Like none of the guys would even attempt to talk to me because of them too. Because my brothers would like beat them off. She's like, there were many a times that they got into fights in school because somebody looked at me wrong. I'm just like, yeah, that makes
Oh
sense.
man. Yeah. So it was fun, but like the one commonality throughout this girls is like none of them have biological sisters.
Oh.
Well, Jade technically does, but that's a whole nother story because she doesn't talk to her family.
Mhm.
The she doesn't talk to the blood family. They don't acknowledge her anymore. But
Happens to the best of us.
so she replaced those crappy sisters with better sisters in college.
Yeah, rightfully so. So, when you were writing this story, the stories plural, we know you've got your inspiration from your college friends. What was it like trying to intertwine them into the story? Like, did the characters come directly from them? Because I feel like all writers put a piece of themselves into the characters as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely pieces of me in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's pieces of people that I knew. There's I can't say that any one character is exactly like one of my friends. The
Yeah.
closest that would come would be Mia because she's kind of like an amalgamation of 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still pieces of me in there, and there's still pieces of like it's not. So like one of my friends from college, she is a nurse practitioner at a NICU,
Mm-hmm.
and because based on the stories that she told us about some of her work over the years, I actually worked one of my characters, Rosie, is a nurse in the NICU. And
Mm-hmm.
I, talked to my friend about, what would happen if this was the symptom, this kind of thing, like what tests would you run, that kind of thing. And so she worked out what, she helped me work out all the medical stuff.
Yeah.
And I worked 2 of her patients in that she had. She had one that was a real sweetie. She talked about how she's told me before, like these babies in the NICU, they have personalities.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that survive have really strong personalities. At least that seems to be what she's seen.
Mm-hmm.
Or what she's told us. There was one baby that I remember her talking about where she would fall asleep while you were bottle feeding her. And my friend would look at her and go, "You playing possum?" And she would just grin around the bottle. Then there was another one. It's very sad. It made my editor cry both times she read it. The baby's lungs weren't developing properly.
Aw.
And he was like 8 months old. He shouldn't have still been in the NICU, but they couldn't take him off the ventilator because his lungs were the size of a 3-month-old.
Mm.
And it was really sad. There was nothing they could do.
Oh
And
gosh.
so, yeah, Rosie, as his nurse, has to deal with the grief of losing a patient.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Wow.
yeah,
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
it's okay. But like that was actually based on one of the cases that she's worked on over the years.
Yeah. Those kinds of stories are crazy. I had a lot of medical family, my grandmother's grandparents, aunts, and uncles, and there are some that they're like they can work through, and then there are some stories they're just like we're just not. They just stay away from. I feel like that's the same sort of PTSD that you see. Well, not exactly the same, but that PTSD is the same as what you would see with a soldier coming back, like talking about certain pieces, but not being able to talk about other pieces because they just
Yeah.
hit too close.
Yeah, dealt with my own medical stuff that I can understand that. But what she tends to do with us is she will vent to us because she can't keep it in. And she doesn't want to take, like, her husband doesn't really understand.
Yeah.
Um, so, because, um, not that he doesn't understand, like, I'm sure she talks to him about it. It's just, um, she needs to vent about it. And, she's trying to raise her own kids and not impact them with it. So,
Yeah. I feel like that's also part, and not that there is anything wrong with this, but men have a tendency to want to try to fix something, and sometimes you can't.
exactly. Like,
Sometimes you just need to get it off your chest.
yeah.
100%. So when you started this series, did you have like an entire plot line in your head, or was it like things come to you in pieces?
I plotted the books individually.
Mm-hmm.
Although the first two books, Nadia and Olivia, Olivia's first, and then there's Nadia. Um, their guys are best friends,
Mm-hmm.
and so Nadia kind of meets Caleb in towards the end of Olivia's book. So I had to like go back, and it was a little confusing to some of the ARC readers, but I was like, we're going back in time a little bit, guys.
Don't hate me.
So then you see what was going on
Mm-hmm.
while Olivia and Jake were talking at a different section of the bar. Which that has been fun. I made up a whole restaurant.
I like when I honestly am here for the story building part, like not just like the plot line as in the characters, but like the side things that are happening, like the towns and the scenery. Like I am a sucker for any way that you can depict trees that aren't just like these massive, tall, looming structures. Like if you can give me a better description of a tree, I will probably love your book forever because I have this weird fascination with the way that they symbolize life between the roots and the leaves and the
Mm-hmm.
way that those things connect. And so, yeah, I like to see how people can describe like towns and communities and the way that they connect because each person does it differently but also similarly, like especially when you get into looking at contemporary and small town romance, like everybody's just there for each other. But then like if you're in a city, it's like we have this really cute, there's always like some sort of city center where you've got like a park. Okay, so you said you write in multiple different genres. We know about your contemporary. Can you tell us about the others?
So I established in Nadia's book that her eldest brother, Roger, has a security firm. And
Mm-hmm.
he is actually instrumental with a situation that she ends up in. I won't spoil the book for you. the so I established he had a security firm, and when
Mm-hmm.
my my ARC and my beta teams were all gung ho on, oh, the brothers need their own books. I was like, well, it's going to have to be a romantic suspense series because that's the only thing that makes sense in my head. So that series launched September 1st with Thief's Bodyguard. That is Roger's book. Roger is, well, he's at a LARP event. He has a one night stand,
Mm-hmm.
and then he gets a call about a month later from a governor from another state who says, you know, my daughter's in your state. I'm getting death threats because election time, death threats. I
Mhm.
need you to go guard my daughter because I can't get her to come back home. So
Mm.
the governor had actually hired a private investigator to find her because it's been that long since he talked to her. And
Gotcha.
what they don't know is that Jenna's been living under an assumed name. She's on the run, not from her dad, from somebody else. And when Roger shows up at her apartment and asks for her by her real name, her roommate's completely confused because she thinks she's somebody else. And it blows her cover. So you go from a one night stand to an enemies to lovers bodyguard romance.
Oh my god.
So you have the overprotective bodyguard, which is Roger, who is trying to get this chick to just think about her own safety for like
Right.
5 minutes. And, um, there
I'm a
it's
sucker for this story already.
it is available wide, all retailers. I also have direct sales on my own website. Um, the and one of the things that I have a coach. She wanted me to do
Mhm.
rapid release this year. So I'm hoping, it kind of depends on my proofreader's schedule,
Yeah.
that the second book will come out in October. And then third book hopefully will be November. That one might have to get pushed back to December, but
Yeah.
we'll see. But that series actually has an overarching storyline because at the where they're trying to take down the people that Jenna used to work for. I'll put it that
Mm.
way. Again, don't want to spoil anything.
So what you said they wanted you to rapid release. What does that look like as far as like your previous timeline and trying to get things like for you, how much extra do you feel like there's more stress or is it like an exciting thing for you?
Um, it was a little more stressful.
Mhm.
The second book took me way too long. Like I got way behind when I was drafting book 2. That's Hacker's Accomplice. The those two did trying to I didn't do enough planning, I think is my problem. But the third book is already coming back from my beta team. Book 2 is back from my editor, so I'm editing both of them because I'm nuts. Um,
I'm scared for you.
it'll be fine.
I help beta and also do some editing for an indie and I'm like I'm scared for you.
I'll be fine. I'll figure it out.
I
The
believe in you.
So Hacker's Accomplice is not actually deal with a brother, it's Roger's friend. It was
Mhm.
the plan was the plan was not for Sam to get a book. The plan was for book 2 to be Finn, the youngest brother. And I was like, wait a minute, this
Mm.
makes more sense if we put something in between this. Okay. Because
We just
Sam and
happened to
Frankie were
find.
talking at me, and I was like, all right, well, you guys can go in a book. And
I
yeah,
guess we'll go ahead and go here, even though it's not where I wanted to go. It's fine.
characters do what characters do, and it made more sense once I thought about it. So,
I love when that happens. It always end up being some of the best stories too, because the authors are just like they ran off how they want to. I can't control them anymore.
yeah, so like it's those are the first three books. There's Roger and Jenna, Frankie and Sam, and then Finn and someone you meet in book 2. Um, it's been fun, honestly, because like book
Mhm.
3, I did way more planning and it flew. Like I could not write fast enough. So that I think is going to get me at least caught up to get them all out this year. Um, the cover, I had found a pre-made before I even started writing, and for the first book, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Roger. Which, yeah, you try finding a 40-year-old guy on a cover, or someone that looks like he could be 40. That's like
Nowadays,
looks
that
like a
doesn't really
romance model cover.
happen. Yeah, yeah.
It's like, ooh, okay, yeah, you're Roger, and I bought the pre-made like a year ahead of time, and now I really challenged the designer to come up with book two. There's not a lot of blonde stock models, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that dark and serious and broody
Yeah.
has really taken over.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're great. They're
Yeah.
just not everyone in the world.
Right.
So, when it comes, you have an editor, but when it comes to getting ready to release, what does your process look like for, like beta teams, art teams? Do you have a street team as well, or does like all of the marketing fall on you?
I should probably get a street team. I wouldn't have any idea how to like the marketing just mostly falls on me and anybody who's like reading the book. I've been getting more active on threads and meeting bookstagrammers that way. Um and I also do like newsletter blasts, promos like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you you said you're getting more active on some social media. Do you mainly just use threads or do you I know you said TikTok too. Do you like
I'm terrible at the clock app.
me too. It's
I've
so
been
bad.
on Facebook and Instagram for years now, but
Yeah.
I was trying to look at something that one of the people I follow on Instagram had posted on Threads and got sucked in.
That is so easily. Okay, so my
It
stance
does
has
that.
always been that I prefer like Facebook just because it's a little bit easier to get into a group and be interactive.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I mean TikTok gets to the point where you're just all about the views, and Instagram is kind of becoming the same way because they're pushing reels so hard, but it's also about like the aesthetic of like for Bookstagram, it's more of like the aesthetic of your shelf. Like what can you make the most pleasing to the eye rather than anything else, or at least what I've
Yeah,
seen.
it's about the aesthetic.
But Threads came in, and like Twitter just is dead. We're just not even gonna. It doesn't exist,
Nope.
even though authors are breaking in over there. But regardless, I feel like Threads broke in and has like paved the way for not quite. I want to say it's like Twitter did between 2010 and 2014, but that was different. And it's
Yeah.
just, it was wild over there, whereas Threads feels more like connection than just stating wild opinions.
Yeah, Threads feels more like a community to me.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Do you have a preference of which one?
Um, I seem to be better at Facebook. If you're basing it off of like actual metrics, that the Meta Business Suite gives me. So
I've tried so hard to use the Meta Business Suite between my multiple accounts, and I can't even ever get it to line up. So I just was like, you know what? Never mind. It's fine. I don't know how you guys do this. I get so concerned. I'm like, if I can't figure it out, and I work in the tech industry, help. But then I remember that a lot of people ask more questions, and I just want to figure it out by myself.
I mean, I tend to go to YouTube when I need like. I was like, how do I do this? YouTube.
YouTube University.
Pretty much.
Do you read while you write, or are those going to be like two separate?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do I read the book while I write it?
No, no, no. Sorry. Do
It's
you like
okay.
read other books? Like I have some authors that say they can't read like other books while they're attempting to write a story because they feel
Oh,
like it bleeds too much into or it takes
it kind of
away
depends.
from
Honestly, when my brain is like really hooked on the story I'm writing, I can't really get involved in any lengthy novels. I might read a
Mhm.
few short reads while I'm drafting because I my brain just sort of it would rather be writing my story than reading anybody else's.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
Um, so I do read while I write, but I won't get involved in anything.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not going to get involved in anything like really
Lengthy.
lengthy, or if I've been waiting for a book to come out, I'm going to put off until I can actually pay attention to it.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I got you.
That's
Do you have a favorite genre to read? Like, is it the same as what you write or is it different?
um I tend to lean towards contemporary romance, paranormal romance. I don't write paranormal romance because I feel like there's so many other people that have already done it so much better than I could.
Mm.
Um, there's so I tend to end up in the paranormal romance for what I actually read.
Yeah.
Also, but I do read contemporary as well. Um, there's a lot of romance authors that I follow.
So I have friends that recently pushed me into the world of and I did not think when they first mentioned it, they were just like, "Oh yeah, it's different. Like you might like it. You never know until you try it." And I was just like, "Oh, okay, I'll try it." Like I've always been in the place where like I'll read anything.
Hmm.
It actually took me by surprise that I enjoyed it, and I don't even know why I thought that I wouldn't. I don't know that it was really like oh, I won't enjoy this, but like a hesitancy.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's just because I'm not male or what. My I forget that they can't see me, but I do this weird flop thing with my hands that I'm just like I don't know how to express myself here. But I have trouble thinking about whenever because a lot of people have issues with reading certain things like MM. And I don't know if it's just like certain level of insecurity or faith or whatever the case may be. But I've tried. I think the only thing that I've come on to that I can't read very well, aside from nonfiction, because I'm out of school. I don't want to read anything like that again. But
I hear ya.
like, please no.
I
Um,
have a history degree.
gosh, I feel my look. Okay, I was really great in school, but my heart hurts for the people who end up choosing degrees that have so much reading, like English and history. And I'm sure they probably enjoyed it. And I feel like you might have enjoyed pieces of it, but there was so much reading that I feel like it would also make me not want to read anything else ever again.
I didn't read for a while after I finished my because I actually did a double major for my bachelor's in history and
Mhm.
sociology. Um, and you had asked earlier about like doing research for my contemporary romance series, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
flip back to that real quick. But one of my characters had come to me and said she was trans,
Okay.
and I was like, okay, you're going last. Because I got to do research. And going
Yep.
back to my history roots, I was like, okay, I need primary sources. Where am I going to find a primary source about this?
Mhm.
And so I did I found biographies, found other trans authors writing romance with trans characters. Um, And that was how I researched that. Because
Yeah.
when you're pulling from like this, it pulls from both the history and the sociological background. Um, and if we go back to the various subgenres for a second,
Mhm.
I have a fantasy romance. His, his, hang on, put your drink down. Historical fantasy Christmas romance. Because I was watching the Nutcracker ballet.
Okay.
I was watching the Nutcracker ballet one Christmas, and I said to myself, "What if the prince 10 years later the prince went back for Clara?" And that's where
Okay.
that book came from.
Okay.
That's Return of the Nutcracker Prince. And that is it's actually won the most awards out of any of my books.
I love it.
Yeah. It won 3 awards last year.
It's always the ones that are like I just had this really random idea of what if I changed, like the retellings do so well
Mm-hmm.
just across the board.
It's
So
not
like
even a retelling though. I can't classify it as a
true,
retelling
true,
because
true.
you start in 1840s Germany.
Okay.
Like I went back and was like, okay, when was the ballet supposed to be set? And
Mhm.
it's like 10 years forward from there. What I'm researching fabrics, I'm researching hairstyles. I'm like, oh man, that's why it took 2 years to write. Because I was like, I must get this accurate, or I will never be able to live with myself.
Yes, yeah. Part of your history degree.
Yeah.
Accurate. I'm
And
going to be
fantasy
angry.
author, and I learned fantasy authors are another breed entirely. World building is hard.
Yeah. I have attempted to try it. Okay. Writing in general, it's not all that easy. However, I do agree that there is another level to the fantasy portion because some people make up entire languages, and how do you do that? My brain cannot
Yes.
comprehend. How do you do that? On top of you built this entire world that may or may not something look like a mix of a sci-fi movie and the real world. Like not that I ever think we'll get there, but I have some questions for like Rebecca Yarros and Sarah J. Maas, and I'm just like, where did all of this come from? How did you find, especially Rebecca, because I'm like, you wrote contemporary. You wrote like 20 contemporary books before you just decided one day you wanted to dabble in fantasy. So where did it come from? How long had you been sitting on it?
I know for me, I was mostly inspired by the ballet and by other fantasy books at the time. 80 Award had just come out with her Protected book, the first series in her Seven
She's so
Realms.
great.
I love her. I love her to death.
She's so
Um,
great.
so I was like, oh wait, it'll be different because hers is a
Mm-hmm.
retelling and mine won't be, and it's but I don't foresee it. It's not even that long, but it took
Mm-hmm.
me 2 years to write.
I've noticed that there are some that, and like you said, whenever the story is really speaking to you, you're not able to put it down. And there are some that require a little bit more, I'm going to say finesse, because
Mhm.
they acquire more attention to detail. And not that the ones that are fast to write don't, but like the information flows faster. It feels like you might, if you're already a little bit more familiar with it, it just flows faster and it makes sense, and it maybe not have to think about it as hard. Whereas with
Yeah,
something like the Nutcracker one, it was like, okay, I have to really pay attention to the details that I'm putting into this to make sure that it's period accurate.
Yeah, and they don't even spend that much time in Germany. Most of it's in the other realm, but
Mm-hmm.
the fashions mostly was what I was researching.
Yeah.
Return of the Nutcracker Prince is actually the only one that I've ever actually written while listening to music, because I was playing the ballet soundtrack
Yeah.
while I was writing. Normally I listen to music with lyrics, and I don't do that when I write because the lyrics will
Mm.
end up in the book.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. My brain would do the same thing. I do find that interesting though, because I have talked to someone and they're like, yeah, they did a horror, or maybe not really a horror, but like a scary. I'm gonna put quotes around that scary story they told for like Halloween novella, and she was like, the entire time in the background, I was listening to like a YouTube version of like screens of people getting murdered. And I was like, what?
I mean, do what you got to do, but
I was like, are you serious? Are you messing with me?
I don't mess with horror, period, but that's no thanks.
I was just like, I'm scared. Like, are you pulling one over on me or is this legit? And she's like, no, I'm serious. And I was like, I'm kind of scared, but also I guess if it works, it works. Like I'm not going to knock your process because that's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Mm.
I could, I wouldn't be able to sleep straight.
Right? I mean, as it was, I was whenever I would close my eyes, I would hear the Nutcracker suite. I was playing on it was like trying to sleep, and it's like da, 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 da. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh my goodness. Do you have any plans to do something similar? Maybe not that story, but like another what if scenario for like a classical story?
Not right now. I have I have Hunt Security that I'm doing right now.
Yes.
There is a spin-off from that's gonna come
Mhm.
about. I haven't figured out when exactly or how it works in. Um, but Thief's Bodyguard actually sets up two couples. Like,
Mhm.
you know how you see that in romance books where it's like these two side characters definitely have some tension going on. Um,
Yes.
so there's going to be another book sort of that spins off of that. I haven't figured out. I know who the characters are. I have and basically what happens, but I haven't figured out like what time of year it is or when I'm writing it. Um, After Hunt Security, I am doing the second edition of the Geek Girl Squad next year. Um, the paperback ISBNs for them are with Amazon, and in order for me to get them back, I need to add some stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I've been cooking this like big series epilogue for the end of it, like for 10 years down the road when, they've got kids and, houses and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like coming up with ideas for that.
Mhm.
Um, that's that, and then book 4 of Hunt Security are on my writing schedule for 2025. Um, and honestly, I kind of have like a potential witch series in the back of my head that I've been thinking about. I don't know how I'm going to
Ooh.
work that. It's like my brand is just all over the place. But
We like variety.
that one actually I want to base it on the 8 pagan holidays.
Okay.
So, so far I've only got one idea for Samhain, and it's a medium and one of those obnoxious ghost hunters.
Oh gosh.
I was like, oh, this would be a fun enemies to lovers romance.
I always love to have the character that I love to hate because I'm like, you're like either you're obnoxious or you're annoying, but at the same time, like I love that this is how you are. They
So it's
always end up
like
being some of my
I've
favorite
got
characters.
like it would be I might break it up into like 2 4-book series.
Hmm.
Um but I have no idea what I'm doing for any of the other holidays yet.
Yeah.
So that's just sort of like it's not even on the back burner at this point. It's like in the recipe book at the back.
Just somewhere in the corner back here, just like
Yeah.
every once in a while, it's just like, hey, I'm still here.
Yeah. It's like there's a file in my computer where I'm just like, what could I do for this one? Maybe this. And then I don't think about it and I go back to my other projects that are a lot louder right now. It might never happen. We'll see.
I'll be looking out. I have a lot on my to do list to catch up with so that I'm ready when the rest of these series come out. But I will be ready. I'm gonna make sure I follow you everywhere so that I can stalk when you even get. I'm just gonna be like, hey, moves glasses on face. Hey, how's it going? Is this still a thing?
I'm hoping to get the second editions of the Geek Girl Squad out for holiday season 2025. Cross your fingers. It's um it's going to be fun to go back to the girls.
Yeah. Yeah. You should do holiday edition like Kickstarters.
I was talking with my sister about that last night. And she's like, "You could do this and that." And I'm like,
That's a lot of work.
her bachelor's is business, and so she's like, I have to like temper her ideas by talking to my author coach, and like, okay, is this a good idea or a bad idea?
Rein it
But
back in a little bit. Let's think this out logically.
anyways, like, is this actually going to work for an author business?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Is this beneficial for me or is it just a fun idea?
Yeah. And it sort of comes down to like what my newsletter subscribers are going to put in their survey, because that's going to determine the base price
Yeah.
for special editions. Because it's 5 books, that's a lot.
It is, yeah. I mean, we love to go viral and get people that will want to just, randomly sign up and pledge, but at the same time, logistically speaking, based off the current audiences where you want to put it, so that if you do better, it's just bonus.
So that's sort of on my mind of what I want to do. It's like she's like, you could do black covers with like the different colors on foil, and I'm like, that actually sounds really cool. And then my husband's like, my husband's on my beta team.
Mm-hmm.
He's also because he has an English degree. And because he's just super supportive. He's my favorite sounding board for ideas.
That's fantastic. Oh,
But he's like, I don't know if black really fits those books. Like, that's awful dark, and your
mm-hmm.
writing is not dark. And I'm like,
Yep.
maybe you're right. I don't know. I just kind of like the idea of
Well,
like the black with like the fancy foil.
yeah, don't let it deter you in whole, because I mean, there are plenty of stories that are dark that the covers look cutesy and well, I can't find one in here because these are what I've got in here is very wide ranged. I like to dabble. Yeah, no. On here, I'm like looking around my library, like, okay, what do we have? What was the last book you read that made like a massive impact on you?
Hmm.
It's a heavy question. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I read really fast.
Mm.
So I tend to go through books really quickly. Um, uh,
Or maybe just the last one you remembered that you enjoyed a whole lot.
um, Mari Carr's Kiss and Tell was the end to her Italian Stallion series, and I adore her. Um, and it was like, oh no, it's the end of the series, but
Mm.
she's also setting up for her next series, which is like,
Yep, yep.
because like the heroine in that one, all her like cousins are in the next series, so that was really fun, and it was neat to get to see all of the various characters at the end there.
Yeah, that's always great when they come together like that. And you get to see like a
Hmm.
possible future, but not really.
She's really good at big families, at managing
Yeah.
all those different characters.
As someone who has a big family and I'm not great at managing all the characters, I have some real respect for that.
Yeah. It's like I have a lot of cousins, but I'm not close with them because I'm
Mm.
like we all live far away.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
I wish I lived a little further than I do, but they're great. They've always been supportive. My uncles and aunts are, I mean, the closest one probably lives maybe 15, 20 minutes from me, but he's the only, like, my cousin, he is the only one of most of the cousins that I don't talk to all that much. And his dad is the one that lives the next closest to me. And his dad and I have never really gotten along just because he has that, like, tough love, picking on you, almost mean uncle. And I was a very sensitive young girl. Like, I am an empath and I show my emotions. And so it was very easy for him to just pick and make fun of me, and my heart's on my sleeve. So he's getting a rise out of me.
Yeah.
But everyone else lives an hour or more away. So I'm like, I don't really talk to y'all, so it's okay that you're close. But if I see you in public, I'm turning my head and walking the other way.
My parents are both the youngest.
Hmm.
So and then so like I have cousins that are in a whole different generation than me because there's so much
Hmm.
space between us. Um I remember when I was like little, I was like 4. One of my cousins was in the Navy and he would come visit when he was on leave and like spend a weekend. And that was great. Like we actually got to know him better
Yeah.
because he did that. And but the rest, like we're all spread out over the country now, and
Hmm.
um the it's some of my cousins like it's just Mari makes it sound so wonderful. it's
He
like
really
it's
does.
like this ideal situation, but it's just when you and I think about like the practicality of actually like it. There's a reason it's fiction,
Yeah,
but
it's not always that glamorous. No, 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 no. Yeah. And that's, I mean, the age difference alone, like whenever, it's not always depicted, but I feel like there are some pieces of it. But like you're saying, like sometimes, we're not born in really close age ranges. Like most of my younger cousins are. I'm the second oldest, and I'm only 24. And I've got younger cousins that have kids. And I'm like, I know, I'm not ready. And I'm 24. How?
I'm one of the baby cousins. I'm one of the baby cousins, and one of my oldest cousin just became a grandfather a few months ago.
See, my brain.
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, I'm talking to his sister. I'm talking to his sister at my aunt's 90th birthday. I'm talking to his sister, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if we're gonna have to have kids, da 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 da. And she's like, oh, well, you're still young. I'm like, I turned 40 this year, and she's like, what? Because in her head, I'm still a little kid.
Yeah.
I was like, nope.
Yep. I feel like it probably has something to do with the connection, because like in fiction, it feels like everyone stays connected and they're close and they have their gatherings regularly, but like for us, even if we have a semi-regular gathering, not everybody shows up every time. Like we're all
Right.
within 2 hours of each other for the most part, but even then, like like I said, some of
Oh,
my
you're
younger
close
cousins have.
compared to my family.
Right, but even then, like some of them have young kids, either newborns about to have a kid or like two, so young. And I am married with no kids, but my husband's a trucker. So like he has wild hours that he's at work that I'm like, what you're not understanding is I can't just stay out all day and all night. Like I get to see him during the week. I get 1 hour of face to face time every night. That's it. Not conducive to an all that great relationship, if I just be honest. So, like, his days off or my weekends when he comes home is really the only time. So, I'm like, you're asking me to sacrifice time, precious little bit of time I have.
Yeah.
And as much as I love you, you're not part of my marriage.
Well, so there's a family reunion coming up, and it's a 4-hour drive one way
Mm,
for me. And it's on a Sunday. And I have to get up for my day job at 6 a.m. on Monday. And I'm going to be spending 8 hours in the car for to spend 2 hours at this reunion.
right. And you're
It
going to get
didn't make
home
sense.
exhausted from the eight
Yeah.
hours of traveling. Because
Yeah.
contrary to popular belief, sitting in a car is just not all hunky dory.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sorry. Driving the highway is not relaxing.
not at all. It weighs on your body. I get it. I do.
Yeah. And it's like, I have a bad back. So, spending 8 hours in the car with only 2 hours of rest doesn't really sound good to me.
Yeah.
So
And
it's like, we're
especially
going to
if I'm
have to
only
skip
spending.
it
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
it's not worth it.
Yeah. 100%. Like, we do the same thing when we're, like, people. Again, fiction makes it sound so easy for you to just like hop in the car and drive or get on a flight and go somewhere. But we have to contemplate like, okay, how far is the drive? How long are we staying? Is it worth the drive to get there? How much, if we're gonna fly, how much is the flight? And again, how long are we staying?
Yeah. Do we have to get a hotel?
Yes, I'm like, what is
Is-
the racked up cost? I wish I was a billionaire with a B.
Don't we all? The It's just, and so I have cousins from Massachusetts to California
Yeah,
and a few in
that's.
Hawaii. So we don't get together that often. I didn't meet one of my cousins until the day before my wedding
Mm-hmm.
because she just never had, like, I wasn't around for the one reunion that she made it to.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't even expect her to come to the wedding, frankly, but it was nice.
I mean, you never know. Family can surprise you sometimes. I'm much more fond of found family, but you know, 'tis life.
Yep.
Anyways, we're gonna come back to the
To the
to
books.
the writing. I don't have any more questions, but if you want to tell us about when the next book comes out and where to find you, I'll make sure it all gets put in the show notes.
Okay. Well, I'm on Facebook. Instagram, TikTok, and kind of Twitter, but not really. I don't really post on there. My website is www.jasminecaldwell.com. I have some of my books on there that you can. Oh wait, you can direct order all of them through my website. Right now I'm split between two different platforms of actual delivery. I need to fix that. And you can borrow them through the library apps. They're available in Kobo Plus. All the different.
Kobo Plus. I'm gonna run the Kobo Plus.
And basically anywhere your books are sold. I know the Barnes & Noble has the paperback of Return of the Nutcracker Prince and I think Thief's Bodyguard. Typically they won't. Typically you would have to order them online. They won't have them in stores, but they could probably get them in. And then eventually I'm going to have the Geek Girl Squad wide as well for the paperbacks. But
Yay.
Next book I'm hoping comes out October 1st. Right now the pre-order is set for November 1st, just to cover my butt. Because my proofreader she takes 2 to 3 weeks, and that's right at the line of when I can get everything uploaded to the retailers.
Gotcha.
So it might have to push that back a bit. This was fun. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining.